This is the story of what's become the most expensive Warhammer model in Games Workshop history, and how I come to have one. The year was 1995 and Games Day was closing in. Tim Adcock in the manufacturing office had been given a task. There had already been 2 Thunderhawks made for the epic scale. The first one is a tiny square box, and by tiny I mean super tiny. The second one though was a bit more refined in its design. I think Jess Goodwin was the one who drew the original sketches. And it's quite a bit flashier than the first one. However, there had never been a Warhammer figure made in this size or this scale. This new sculptor, Tim, or maybe he wasn't actually a sculptor yet, but he was definitely going to be one, because he had never made a full metal miniature before.
I ended up making the master as a test piece for me for potentially working in the studio, and I'd never made a miniature in my life before. That was my first stab at making a metal model ever.
And as his first task, he was given the mission to make one of these epic scale, super tiny Thunderhawks into a real scale one that would fit on a Games Workshop table.
I ended up making the master as a test piece for me for potentially working in the studio, and I'd never made a miniature in my life before. That was my first stab at making a metal model ever.
He was given 1 day every week for about 6 months to come up with something, prep it for casting, and have it painted for Games Day.
And most of it was done at home in the evening after doing a day's work, so it was done at night as an extra project.
In many ways, this piece could be seen as his test, his rite of passage, to see if he was actually good enough to work over at the design studio. But oh boy, did it end up being more than just a test. When all was said and done, there was 3 copies made for Games Day 1995. It was used in the displays and everyone loved it. A bit over a year later, the 3rd edition Space Marine Codex was released, and the photos from that Games Day, when they had 1,000 miniatures, they had 50 rhinos and dreadnoughts and whatever in the photo, was at the back of the magazine. And if I would guess, I would say that pretty much the entire Heavy Metal team must have been involved in making this ultramarine scheme that they did and painted up all of this army, because that's a huge task. Because back then, there was no such thing as an airbrush, so everything was probably primed with a spray can and then painted by hand. And in these shots, there's not just one of them, they actually have all 3 of these Thunderhawks in frame. And they look amazing next to this army. It's the icing of the cake. And no wonders they got a lot of emails and requests about releasing this miniature. Flash forward to October 1997. To the month actually, 10 years from when Rogue Trader was officially released. So on the 10 years anniversary of Warhammer 40,000, the Thunderhawk gunship made out of metal was finally available for pre-order. And from the information I've been able to collect, it was limited to 500 copies. It's a wonderful piece, and by the photos it really looked amazing, but Games Workshop was adamant to let us know that this is not easy. This is not something you're gonna buy. You're gonna be able to put it together as one of your first miniatures. You have to be an experienced builder. You have to be at least 14 years old, and you have to take full responsibility, because if you buy this, you will not be able to return it. That is how difficult it was to build and how rare it was, and probably how difficult it was to cast as well. Speaking of casting, actually the caster who made the molds, this was similar to the sculptor, one of his tests to see if he was able to be good enough to be a master mold maker.
The guy was doing all the master mold making on it at the time, but he was learning how to become a master mold maker. Yeah, there's a few of us learning our skills on that particular project.
And at this time, 1997, I was no more than 10 years, and there was no way that I could afford it, no way that my parents would give this miniature to me, because already back then it cost 40,000 pence. I know, right? That 40,000 in Warhammer 40,000. It's quite amazing. It's the best price they've probably ever had. But I would not get that as a birthday present ever. it was too expensive. And in the US it cost $699, which, I mean, it's a very costly piece. Even with the inflation and everything, even today, paying £4,000 for a model would be a lot. But here we are, 25 almost years into the future. I've made this my full-time job. My job is to make fun videos about hobby, about Warhammer, about painting miniatures, and the Thunderhawk has become probably the most rare miniatures and the most sought after miniature in all of the market. And in 2020, about 6 months ago, it set the record-breaking price of 5,100 Great British pounds for one single Warhammer miniature. In US dollars, that's $7,000. That is crazy. I did a video a few weeks back where I sent in a form from one of the old catalogs. I had the 97 journal, and I also showed you that I managed to get hold of one. Did I manage to get hold of it though from the form that I sent in? Well, not really. That would have been amazing, but I'm not angry at Games Workshop for not sending me one that's been sold out for 25 years. It is so heavy. However, I did manage to find one in Sweden who was willing to sell it for a reasonable price, so I could cover the cost with the help of this week's sponsor.
Do you like D&D?
Uh-huh.
Do you like 3D printing?
Yeah!
Then The Lost Adventures is for you!
Wow!
Do you want to have some awesome heroes, encounters, monsters, and dragons?
Holy moly!
Look, mommy! He's flying!
The Lost Adventures have the complete package with awesome terrains together with your epic miniatures, and everything is 3D printable on FDM and resin printers.
He's stuck under the tree. We've got to save him.
Jokes aside though, The Lost Adventures make some of the most complete sets for Dungeons and Dragons, role-playing games, and just for painting. Like, look at this dragon, it's one of my favorites from their sets. I put the link to thelostadventures.co in the glippity glop down below. Thanks Danny for just letting me do whatever I wanted with your sponsor time. I had a lot of fun doing this. And maybe an even bigger thanks to my patrons, because without you guys, I would not be able to pay my own salary when taking all of the sponsors' money to invest and make a video series like this, because obviously without you guys, this would not happen, so thanks. So, what's in the box? Well, honestly, it's quite a lot. We've counted all of the pieces and we get it to a total of 204 pieces in the box, and none of them has any connection points, and all of them are just flat surfaces. But let's start from the top. Let's open the box and see what's inside. The first thing, obviously, that comes to mind is the incredible box. Like, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this by Games Workshop or any other brand. This one is just handmade from wood, probably. These Aquilas on the edges here are insanely nice. It's just such a nice detail. And the whole thing that you have to use a key to open it up just adds so much of it being something valuable, something that's, you know, beyond the normal. So let's open up and see what's in here. Oh. So there's an envelope, Thunderhawk Gunship Certificate of Ownership. So what did you get for £4,000 back in '97? Well, you get a printed certificate paper. Strike fast and suddenly.
Attack without warning. Secure victory before the foe is aware of his danger. Remember always, a war is easily won if your enemy doesn't know he is fighting.
So the Space Marines are cowards, have no honor, kill people before they know it's a war. Here's where it gets interesting. There's so much things in here, and first page seems reasonable, but it is when you start coming to like the third and fourth and fifth page that you realize that this is gonna require some real work. It's not the easiest model to build, but I'm definitely looking forward to this because it is looking insane. They included a slide of transfers, Blood Angels, Space Wolves, Ultramarines, and Dark Angels. So the first thing that kind of catches my eyes are these ones. Oh god, they are heavy. Like these three maybe weigh as much as a box with the units of models today. The most fascinating thing when I'm gonna paint this is that it's not gonna be possible to hold it because the total weight of this with the box is 10 kilos. So I'm guessing the model is somewhere around like 8.5 kilos maybe. So this is where we place these exhaust pipes. Okay, let's just try to dry fit the engine here because the engine is huge. So we have one of these pieces, number 10. Okay, so we have a few pieces there. It's probably gonna be a week of just assembling. Fantastic. Okay, so this is just one part. Okay, we have this one in the front, and then this one's supposed to go this way. And then we have one of these there. Here we go. This bad boy. Okay, so this is just the engine. Let's see how many kilos we get. 411 grams. It's half a kilo on just the engine. So imagine painting and you take this times 20. That's when you get the weight of the model. That's insane. If we look at the casting quality here, like these lines are super sharp. It has super small details. And all of this, I'm guessing, was hand sculpted. I would not suppose anything of this is made in a 3D program or software back then. It's all very, very fine. Just look at these sort of dots. Even though they aren't perfectly aligned, the quality of this is freaking ridiculous. You can see here as well, details of these patterns down here. Wow. Engine parts and things like that, cables. That is so, so fine. Here we have a tiny Aquila, super fine. Games Workshop 1992. So this piece was made already back in 1992. Maybe this was something that they had on other pieces as well. Oh, we have a Marine. Look at here, the one that takes care of the weapon stuff. So this is an Intercessor. It's not too far off in terms of size. I would say it's maybe 30% smaller, so probably similar to the old plastic Marines from 2nd, 3rd edition. So this is definitely, it's gonna be a frustrating process. I think I'm gonna learn more building this than I have built anything in my entire life. I think this will probably take a week to build, but I'm really excited about it. And like the quality of the casting is really, really good. Apart from nothing fitting, but like the details is really nice. Everything looks super fine. The box itself feels like one of the biggest things of this whole project. Just to get this box and to have everything sorted in here, that alone makes this whole thing worth being excited about. I have also become slightly terrified of this whole project because building it's gonna be something else, something I've never done before. I can't wait to show it to you. Thanks again to my sponsor who's been kind to pitch in the money for this whole video project. A massive, massive thanks to all of my patrons. Like without you guys, I would not be able to do these crazy video projects where we can spend the sponsors' money on buying this kind of stuff. So thanks so much everyone who's part of the Patreon. Special thanks to all my top Patreon supporters. You guys are beasts. And with that said, have a great day. Bye.